Hi everyone, this video is my 5 top reasons why you should consider painting your landscapes in gouache. This is especially if you're already a watercolour painter and you're thinking of dabbling with a bit of gouache painting. And if you can tell which painting is gouache and which is watercolour, pop it in the comments. Is it on the left or is it on the right? My number 1 reason is combine with water. So as with watercolour paints, you can add water to your gouache. For the painting here, I've already wet the sky in clean water and thinned out the gouache paint. So it still gives a nice gradient. You don't have to use or be too concerned about your water control, because you only have a little bit of water, and because the paint's quite thick, it is actually going to give you that nice gradient. You don't need to worry about those blooms that you get with adding a lot of water to your sky. So if we were to then look at this with using watercolour, we've already wet the sky as well, and we're adding in quite a thick mixture of blue. Now, as you can see, it's starting to run down when we've needed to tilt it to get that nice gradient. And we can't add too much water, because now it's getting a little bit streaky. It just takes an awful lot more water control in order to get that nice smooth finish. And with gouache, you don't have that. You don't really need to fiddle quite as much. So my second reason is speed. Now, the great thing about gouache is you don't have to wait for all those layers to dry, which can take a bit of time. I managed to go straight in and do the mountains. I mean, I did paint the sea quickly, but I didn't have to wait for the sky area to dry. I just used quite a thick gouache paint and went straight in with those mountains at the back. If we want some lighter mountains in the background, which we do for the distance, for the gouache, then I am just combining both a light blue and a dark blue to give that texture. Now, if I wanted to do this in watercolour, I would have to wait for that sky area to completely dry. To get that lighter mountain look, I would have needed to use a lot of water for the watercolour paint. And then you might get some nasty blooms if your sky's not dry. So here we are doing it with the watercolour, and as you can see, most of the rest of the painting has already been done. I've managed to paint most of it, and then I've had to go back right almost to the start in order to do the mountains in the background, now that the paper's dry. And before we get to my next reason, I thought you might like to see my super cute bunny pot, my new water pot. So next reason is striking contrast. So you can use really nice bold colours, because it's opaque paint for the gouache. Then you get a really nice blocked out vibrant colour, and it really stands out against the rest of the painting. So here I'm doing the foreground in the gouache, and as you can see, it's got a nice thick solid colour to it, which gives that contrast. Now with watercolour, you have to build up the layers because it's transparent, so it can take a little bit more time. My next reason is light over dark, which is magic. So for gouache, you don't need to leave white sections of paper. You can literally go in with lighter colours right over the top of your dark colours. And here in the gouache, I'm using the white paint to give the impression of surf, and then going straight in to do some nice white fluffy clouds in the sky area as well. Now this is for all kinds of paints, so you could use lighter paints, colours, doesn't need to be white, and you can always put those over the darks. Now going to the watercolour, it's a little bit more tricky. For this sky area, I had to do this right at the start while the paint was still wet, and I'm using a tissue to dab out sections of the paint to leave the whiter colour underneath from the paper. A little bit more fiddly. And it doesn't give you that sort of really nice clear cloud shape, which I quite like at the minute. So once we've dabbed away with the tissue and tried to pull off as much paint as possible, I also needed later on to have some white details and for the surf. As you can see, I've left the white section of the paper underneath to give that impression of the surf area. So it takes a lot more planning. You need to plan out your layers in watercolour, which you already know if you're painting with that medium, whereas gouache you can just get stuck in. And my final reason is fine details. So for the gouache in the foreground, I wanted some nice little stalks, impression of grasses, and I could do that straight away with the white paint. I didn't need to worry about doing it to begin with or at any other point in the process. I just did it when I was ready. Now to compare that to the watercolour, while the foreground area was wet, I used a palette knife to scrape away some sections of dark paint, and then that then leaves the lighter sort of white underneath of the paper. Now you can't do this with putting a light blue or any other light colours on. You are just going to be restricted to the scraped away paint. So I hope you found that helpful. If you've given gouache a go for your landscapes, I'd love to hear about it, so please pop me a comment. And if you found this useful, then a like would also be brilliant, as it really helps the reach for my channel. And if you'd like to see both of those tutorials in full, then please let me know and I can arrange that. Thank you for watching.